Hello and welcome to this 5-part series on how to create your own curriculum. My name is Jade and I'm an educator with over 20 years of experience. I also have a master's degree in parent, family, community, and youth education and a decade of homeschooling. In this first part, you're going to learn how to create your own curriculum in 10 easy steps. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is to start with your goals. It is step one. Ask yourself, what do I want my child to learn this year? Some examples: improve their reading skills, master multiplication, learn U.S. history, develop writing confidence. I'm a writing teacher if you need me. Explore personal interests. So you want to start with the destination before choosing your resources. Step two, you're going to identify the required subjects. Of course, we have our core subjects: language, arts, math, science, social studies, but there's also health and other electives that you might want to add to your homeschool curriculum. One key point is to check your state's homeschool requirements first. Everyone's state differs greatly. You want to make sure you're following the laws. So I personally like to use I have to check the acronym because I always say this wrong, the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, which is HSLDA. I believe it's .org. Before you start developing lessons, you want to assess your child. This is separate from the assessments that you'll do at the end, but you want to make sure that you know where your child's at in their learning. So ask yourself some questions like, what are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? How do they learn best? So me, I'm hands-on. I have to be able to touch, and I'm visual, so I have to draw out what I'm learning and what I'm explaining, and then what interests they have. For step four, you're going to create your learning goals. So break big ideas into smaller, more manageable goals. An example, let's say the writing goal is to write complete paragraphs. Then they're going to use transitions. And from there, they'll write a 5-paragraph essay. So you're starting with the big picture and breaking it down. Narrow the focus. Another example, let's say you're working on math. The big goal is to master fractions, breaking it down to smaller goals, applying those fractions to real world situations. My favorite, baking. You have to do all types of measurements. And then it's home economics too. And then the assessment is eating it. We'll get to assessments at the end of this. Now, in the fifth step, this is where you're going to start gathering your resources. You're going to choose your teaching tools, and you don't need one resource for everything. You can create unit studies. That is in another part. But your resources could be library books, they could be online courses, workbooks. Teacher Jay's Writing Academy provides both of those. YouTube videos, which you're watching right now, educational games. Step six, this one's a little bit more complicated and requires a little bit more effort. So there is going to be a second part on how to create a scope and sequence. This is just a simple breakdown of the scope and sequence. So scope and sequence is just a simple way to plan what your child will learn and when they will learn it. Scope means the full list of skills or topics you want to teach over a period of time, like a school year. It's the what are we going to cover. The sequence means the order that you will teach those skills in, from the easiest to the more advanced, or whatever logical learning path you've decided to utilize. And it helps with the when and in what order. When you put it together, scope and sequence is your roadmap for learning. Now, if you think about the scope and sequence as the roadmap for the entire year, lesson plans are the individual driving directions for each day or each class. I like to make lesson plans and unit studies within my scope and sequence. And there's a mini lesson about how to create lesson plans, and of course, the larger lesson about scope and sequence. Step seven is all about interest-led learning. One of the best things about homeschooling is that you get to focus on your child and their interests versus a class full of children. Now, with interest-led learning, the approach is to just kind of follow the child's natural curiosity and their personal interests. That's going to help guide you on what you're going to teach and what they're going to learn. So include your child's passion. Some examples, and this is just from students I've had over the years. Horses. I feel like I'm an expert on all things horses, training them, riding them, caring for them because of how many of my students loved horses. Anime, coding, baking, entrepreneurship, photography, all those different passions can be how you develop your curriculum. Now, some things to consider is, let's say they like horses. How would you tie this into all of their learning. Well, with ELA, you could have them write informational paragraphs explaining how to care for a horse. With math, maybe they're solving word problems about how much feed a horse needs based on its weight. Science, explain how a horse's muscles and legs help it run fast and stay balanced, or some other way to tie that in. Social studies, describe how horses were used in transportation or farming in early American history. And in art, have them draw a detailed sketch of a horse showing its main body parts. And if you want to throw in some PE, take them horseback riding. Step 8, you're going to plan the assessments because, of course, you're doing all of this stuff to make sure that they are learning. So consider how you're going to measure progress. Everything doesn't have to be a test. So you could have them complete projects, writing samples, keep a portfolio, have them do a presentation, mini quizzes, or discussions. There are also different types of assessments. This handout will be made available. Your next step is step 9, creating a weekly schedule. You can do it monthly, you can do it by a quarter, whatever works for you is going to work for you. But turn those goals into a routine. So over here, that is how I had my daughter's schedule when she was younger. But also keep in mind that children tend to learn more and retain what they're learning when they enjoy what they're learning. And there are no real specific set hours, but based on research, children ages 5 to 8 should spend about 1 to 3 focused hours on learning with 10 to 20-minute breaks in between. Upper elementary, their focus should be around 2 to 4 hours per day with 20 to 40-minute breaks. Once they get to middle school, 3 to 5 focused hours with a mix of independent work and guided instruction. And then at high school level, anywhere between 4 to 6 hours. Think about it like as a part-time work day. But again, the retention isn't based on how much they're doing. It's based on actively doing something with the information, writing about it, discussing it, building and applying it, revisiting the material over time instead of just cramming it all in like in one day, connecting the learning to real interests or real life situations, and taking breaks so that they can actually process the information. And finally, step 10, you are going to review and adjust. So your curriculum isn't set in stone. Every month, take a look at what you developed and then ask yourself what's working, what's not working, and what needs to change. If you want more information, more free resources, follow all of my social media pages and make sure you visit www.teacherjade.com to check out my writing courses for youth ages 8 to 18 and the Parent Academy, where you'll be able to get your free downloads.